Peace, peace, peace. Okay, so a lot of talk has been, permeating the enters of net about Javante Davis. And over the last few weeks, a lot of talk has been going on surrounding Twitter and back and forths between he and Devin Haney, and just questions in general for quite some time have been surfacing on several of the platforms that I like to watch regarding Javante's resume and what is expected of him in 2024, which is a great question. Javante is definitely one of my favorite fighters. And has long been for quite some time now. I love what he brings to the table. I love how dynamic he is as a fighter. I love his boxing ability. I love that it's a quiet storm. It's not really at the forefront of one's mind when people think about, on a general level, Javante Tank Davis. We tend to think about his phenomenal power, his knockout ratio, and all this, that, and the third, which is definitely a considerable edge that he has. But I love the quiet storm that is his boxing ability and his generalship. I love the subtlety of that because, you could be thinking he's coming, like a bull with a red cloth in front of him. But he'll switch it up on you and, position his feet something crazy and, know how to get around on his back foot, know how to push the pace and all types of beautiful techniques that I love to see him do. With that being said, that he is definitely one of my favorite fighters, I guess I just wanted to speak about what I'd like to see of Tank. Tank is definitely, a prodigy. He's taken his own path after, I guess, kind of separating from the Mayweather umbrella and establishing his own GTT Promotions, which is fabulous to see him do that, and so many other young boxers like Devin Haney and these beautiful young black boxers taking the initiative, taking the driver's seat to their careers. Devin has long done it, but it's nice to see that Tank has taken the banner and is taking the direction of his ship. I like that. But I would like to see, with this newfound control, I guess, that he has of his career, of his promotional company, I would hope that would mean that he's using it as a compass to guide himself towards spectacular fights. I loved watching all of his fights, really. I loved him against, I guess my favorite fight with him was Pedraza, because he was, up against a champion and he completely dominated, even though at the time he says he felt like that was maybe a bit too early a push. You would never know it looking at that fight. Him in the ring is just absolutely demolishing Pedraza. And then I would say after that, I really liked the Gamboa fight, which was pivotal. He came across some issues, of course, because Gamboa is no slouch and was no slouch at that time, even though he was kind of a little bit older at that time. He pushed through and did what he had to do. The Leo Santa Cruz fight, of course, was phenomenal with the knockout, even though Leo Santa Cruz was considerably a smaller man than Tank Davis. He did deliver a phenomenal knockout. It was nice to see him test his waters at 140 against Mario Barrios back in 2021 and accomplish that. And I guess that's the last fight, I would say, the Mario Barrio fight that I really, really was like, okay, let's see what he's happening here. The last four fights, I want to say, Isaac Cruz, Rolly Romero, Hector Garcia, and Ryan. Even though I like Ryan a lot, I like Ryan Garcia. I think he's a very flashy, spicy young man. I can't wait to see his continued development as well. I think he's a really, really great fighter. But I went in knowing that Tank would definitely dominate and push that fight, as a majority of people did, even though, as I mentioned, Ryan is very skilled, very electrifying young man. I would like to see Tank step up his competition. And when I say that, that is not a slight of hand at the gentleman that he's fought. He's fought some really good people that were not coming there to play. They were coming there to test their skills up against the likes of Gervonta. But I think it's long been, and I've spoken about this on Champside's platform before, where he allowed me to, add some commentary to one of his shows, and shout out to the King Champside for that. And we discussed, me along with several other people that were on the panel that day had discussed Gervonta and what's next and what we expect of him. And I think it's more than time for Gervonta to add a caliber of fighter to his resume that he knows and that the public finds to be on par with his strength and with his output. Shout out to Hector Garcia. Shout out to Isaac Cruz, who came there to fight. Many people even had the notion that Isaac Cruz gave him the business and were even demanding a rematch, which I don't even know why. But, people felt that, he pushed, unlike so many other people, he managed to stand toe to toe with Tank and give some level of competition. I think that's really what people were psyched about when watching the Isaac Cruz fight, is that he's known as the pit bull and he just comes forward, that classic Mexican style, just kind of come forward, push the pace, aggressive front action, front foot fighting. And I think that people were stunned to see, just ensorcelled by, this little person, step into Gervonta with that type of force, that they were ensorcelled to the point where they thought that, he was actually winning the fight. A lot of people had thought that, or, that, it was actually close enough to demand or suggest a rematch, which I disagree with. But, I think that people just like the pace. They like to see Gervonta have to respond to pressure. I think that's what the ensorcelled energy was coming from, was that it was like, wow, somebody's also delivering a pace to Gervonta. Gervonta is not the one setting it and sticking it. He had to respond. He had to be on the lookout for, and he had to kind of be on guard about whatever Cruz may have possibly delivered. But that's every fight. But, it is what it is with that. But I say that to say that, again, I think the infatuation with Isaac Cruz was his delivery, and that he did manage to show up with his energy as he did in previous fights. He didn't back down to Gervonta because it was Gervonta. No, he pushed the pace, and he was, getting his little aggressions out, with his energy and his output, even though it wasn't successful. He managed to exemplify some type of aggression, some type of heat back towards Gervonta. And I think that that's what people want to see from Gervonta moving forward, is him in the ring with people, definitely way above Cruz's level of ability, that's for sure. But I think in taking from that Cruz fight, we just want to see him in action with someone. I'd like to see Gervonta definitely up against the likes of Frank Martin. I'd definitely love to see, of course, Gervonta and Shakur. Um, Real talk, I think that's the fight to be made next. I know that there was the whole Devin Haney debate, you know, going on, and the back and forth between them on Twitter and stuff like that. But real talk, Devin Haney is a 140 pounder now. He's a champion at 140 pounds now. He has nothing to prove at 135. He's left the division. He relinquished his belts, and he went and, snatched up Regis Prograis' belt at 140. And he's going to continue to climb the ladder in whatever way and manner he chooses to from 140 and beyond from this point on. And we have to allow him to do that. He's no longer a 135er. So I don't think that the conversation, unless Tank is going to go up to 140, then we can discuss it. But the reality of the matter is that Tank is a 135 pounder. And so we should be talking about people within his realm, and the people within his realm, for me, are Frank Martin and Shakur Stevenson. Those are the fights to make for me. I would love to see in 2024 him really push the action, because it's like, what's the point of you having made the move of GTD and the promotion of you having your own, company now, and that you're heading it, and that you've kind of segued away from the Mayweather banner, if what you do with your own business and promotional company is not promote the best fights? We are here to watch the best fight the best. That's why I'm here. I'm a boxing fan. I'm a boxing fiend. I don't play games in my boxing. I love my boxing. And the fighters that I support, Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Tank Davis, Devin Haney, and the list goes on and on and on of beautiful fighters that I really stand behind 100%. I want to see the elite versus the elite. I don't want to see anybody powdering their nose. You know what I mean? I want to see battle. That's what I'm here for. That's what I like. And I think that hopefully 2024 can ring in some amazing fights for Tank Davis. I'd also like to see him be more active as well. Because how many fights did he have in 2023? 2 fights is not bad. He had 1 fight in 2022 against Rolly. 2 fights in 2021. I'd like to see something like maybe 3 fights. I'm not upset with 2 fights, but I'd like to see him getting busy in 2024. That's just me. I like my fighters active because, of course, it keeps the sword sharpened, and it allows them to complete tasks and check things off the list, as I think a fighter should be doing. So I'm thinking about Gervonta, and I'm hoping that with the advent of his, aligning with his own business motto and principle, that he is setting himself up for the best fights in 2024. I don't want to shit too much on his resume, because I know how it could always come across as, when people have the discussion about Tank Davis, it tends to be a sensitivity. Not that I'm at all the least bit worried about such, because I'm not. Trust that. But, I say that for the sake to say that, a fighter is a fighter, and you have to get in there with the people that's in front of you. I salute that. But at this particular point, I think I mentioned this to Champside one of those days last week, something like that, that I think Tank is well beyond. Tank is 30 years old, 29 years old. I think it's weird to me that he still seems to be, with regards to his resume and looking at the names on his resume, at 29 years old, that he is still sort of in a proving grounds, which I find to be very strange and awkward, if I could be honest. Because not to compare, Devin Haney just got out of 140, 135, so I'll use him as an example, because Devin is 25 years old, just turned 25, and was undisputed at 135 and fought Linares and the Gamboas. Tank fought the Gamboa, of course, but the Jojo Diaz, and just really, some really stiff competition in the 135 arena. Lomachenko, of course, he went over there to Australia twice, beat that man in his living room, not even his backyard, in the motherfucking house, and snatched that belt and brought it back to the States. Like, what? It's just absolutely phenomenal, the things that he's been able to accomplish at such a young age, and then to say, you know what, I'm going on to higher heights and I'm moving up. I think it's fabulous, and it always makes me wonder, like, what is Tank's excuse? What is the mindset of Tank Davis to not be climbing to such heights? Yes, he's active. He's fighting at least once a year. I guess the absolute minimum, of course, but when we look at the likes of Tank Davis and what is the word I want to use? His development under Mayweather, the cloth that he's had around him of greatness by one of the best to ever lace up gloves. It's like we would expect him, because he has the representation of and the affiliation with and the nod of approval from such a phenomenal fighter like Mayweather, who in himself has accomplished crazy, crazy things in his career, early and as far as the latter part goes as well. So many accomplishments for Mayweather. It's like, I wonder what has been keeping him from achieving the accolades through his craft. And I'm not meaning the accolades that he get by his association from Mayweather, or by his appeal, popularity, and things like that. I mean just the sportsmanship. Yeah, I mean, like when we look at let's say basketball or something like that. Every team is fighting for, not just to fight for popularity, right? There's a goal, there's an end goal, there's a prestige that you fight for, a championship, a title, a ranking, a statement that you make, and that everybody's goal is to work to achieve this particular privilege of prestige and title and namesake, or whatever it is. And Tank doesn't, he doesn't seem interested in that. And I just find that very peculiar, because it's like, well, what are you fighting for if it's not for an honorary title and honor the prestige of being called champion? Real talk. It's very, very, very weird to me. And it's not something that I always could wrap my head around. And it makes me, there was so much talk about, and I think this was like, in order to smite Devin, it seemed like a lot of the rhetoric that was happening at the time was to kind of just put the belts down as not having any worth or value. Oh, the belts don't have meaning. I don't fight for belts, so I got to pay for the belt, so I don't want no belt. It's like, well, what the fuck are you in the ring for, young man? Like, go fight your neighbors. If you feel me, like, go goddamn be a coach somewhere, and some local gym of yours, if that's the case. What are you in the ring on the elite level now? You're in elite boxing. What are you here for if it's not to achieve some legacy through some titles and through the achievements of championship? I just don't get it. And so, his negation of the titles and the belts, and the accolades associated with becoming a champion and working hard to be a champion, the negation of that is just mind-boggling to me. I never understood why it's not something that, so what the fuck, what you got to pay for the belts? Did Sugar Ray complain about it? Did Ali complain about it? Did Mike complain about it? Did Floyd complain? Well, yeah, Floyd complained about it, but he earned his belts. You know what I mean? When he had them. To all the great champions, what's this complaint? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what you work for. That's absolutely insane to me. It's like, somebody going to the Super Bowl with no intention on winning the trophy. Like, the logic behind that has no weight, no value to me whatsoever. It's like, that's a whole nother thing. I could speak about that all day because I hear the justification of it or people trying to justify it. And I've heard him, or reports of him mentioning things like that because of, the percentage you have to pay for the belts and stuff like that. It's like, well, there's no basis on that for me. But hopefully in 2024, we get to see a change of narrative, a change of direction, and that he's actually mature enough to, come to his senses that, he's in a championship elite boxing level frontier. He's not in his living room or in his local gym, just fighting and sparring. You're on the elite level. This is what you do when you're on the elite level. I don't know what fighter on the elite level doesn't dream about becoming a champion or winning a world title of some sort. So hopefully the perspective on that is a mature approach as far as he goes into this new year with his fights and with the people that he adds upon his resume. I cannot mention this in a more clearer way, but he need to fight, like, when I say elite fighters, this is no disrespect to anybody else, but he need to fight some black fighters. Like, he need to fight some brothers. I heard Bill Haney say that the other day, like, credit to you, whoever's tough is tough, and they put him in front of you and they step up to the plate to fight you and you fight him. Bomb. I like that. I support that. But bro, like, you've been handpicking and selecting people of Latin descent for I don't know how long. And it's like, okay, that's cool, well and dandy, but like, it's about the best fighting the best. It's not about fighting a particular sect of people only. Like, you got so many good fighters out there, all walks of life. Like, let's fight the best fighters in tandem. Like, I don't understand the basis of his selection, but a part of the people that's going to solidify the sharpening of your sword are your brothers. Like, you gotta your Frank Martins, your Shakur Stevensons, your Devin Haney's if you decide to move up, whoever is there. You know what I mean? Your Regis Prograis, if you know what I'm saying? If in the future, let's say you do definitely go up to 140, like, your brothers are there and they are all warriors and you need to be trading leather with them because your greatness depends on it. Your development depends on it and your legacy depends on it. Like, the best have to fight the best. And this whole picking selection shit gotta stop. Like, I'm sick of it. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like become your moniker now, the Mexican assassin or something like that. And it's cute. When you first started doing it and you came out with your Mexican outfit in the full garb like Floyd Mayweather did in the salute to him. And that was absolutely adorable. You walking in that vein and stuff like that. But the continuance of that and only that is a pattern that I question and that I find absolutely suspicious, awkward, and crazy at this particular point, especially when you got brothers in front of you who are about that life or claim to be, that you need to be shutting them up. Like, yo, I run this. You want to call yourself the face of boxing? You got to prove it in the ring. You can't just talk that talk. We know you a bad motherfucker. We know you could fight. You know what I'm saying? We believe in you. We here with you. But you're not exempt from showing and proving. And there's a whole lot of brothers out here who believe they could, provide the same things to the table. And you got to meet them at that table and show them why you're the face of boxing, why you run this, why TBE chose you as the one. You need to be proving that. It's not something that we can talk about in 2024. You got to be about that. And I just want to see him push himself to that extent because he's powerful and he's absolutely talented. And I want to see why he's the one. I want to see why he's the one. I want to see why I got you on my pound for pound list. I want you to prove it to me as your supporter. So hopefully we see some more from Tank Davis and that he's not hiding behind the cloak of excuses for, percentages on paying for belts and, why this belt isn't important. And I just don't get it. If you want a legacy at the end of all of this, you got to show up, King. You got to show up. Like, get off the Twitter. Let's actually have a training camp. Let's actually clean up our team, make sure nobody's going to jail. Let's make sure that work is being done and progress is being had so that you can shine the way every diamond should shine. Because I really do believe he's a talent, and I'd like to see him go far. And all of the younger men in the division and the surrounding divisions go far. So hopefully this is a good year for Tank and the like. And we get some phenomenal fights from him this year. All right, that's it. Peace.